All right, here we have another example of a piecewise function, but this time the function has three different rules to it, so it's a little bit more complicated than the ones we've seen in a previous video. So let's start by graphing the top piece, which I'll do in blue. So this has the rule that y is equal to x plus 5, but only for values that are -2 or smaller. So I'm in the table. And I'm going to plug that value of -2 in for x first. -2 plus 5 gives me a y value of 3, and I'm going to plot that point as a solid point. Okay. Then I'm going to pick another number for x that's smaller than -2. So next I would pick -3. -3 plus 5 gives me 2. It's this point right here. And then how about one more value for x just for good measure, -4. -4 plus 5 results in 1. Okay, so then you can see the trend, right? You're going to keep continuing down 1 and left 1. And this would be the first piece of this graph. Okay. All right, next I will do the middle piece in red. It has a rule that y is equal to -2x minus 1. Again, I'll make a table. And I'm going to start by plugging -2 in, which is this value within the domain. Okay, so -2 times -2 is 4. 4 minus 1 gives me 3. All right, now notice that's resulting in the exact same point that the first piece resulted in. Okay, the only difference is technically this point is not included in the middle piece. Okay, so really what we should do if we were graphing only this piece is we should put an open point at -2, 3. Now, since we already have a solid point for the first piece, what I like to do to designate that is I'll put the open point around the solid point. Okay, but technically understand that the solid point wins out for the piece that's in blue here. Okay, then I'm going to plug -1 in for x next. That's because -1 is between -2 and +2. Okay, that's going to lead me to a y value of 1, and that'll place me right here. And you can see from the open red point to that second solid red point, I'm going down 2 and right 1. I'll keep doing that, so I'll go down 2 and right 1 again. And I'll keep doing that until I get over to an x value of 2, which is the other end of this piece's domain. So I'm going to do it until I get over here, and that final point right there is a solid point since 2 is included. All right, so when I connect these points, this is going to be a line segment. Notice there's no arrow on either end of that piece of the graph. Okay? All right, then we do the final piece. I'll do this one in green. This is y equals -4. So I'll make a table one more time. First value I'll plug in for x is this 2 right here. Now notice there's nothing to plug in for x, right, in the equation. No matter what x is, y is automatically -4. Okay. So when I plot this point, since 2 is not technically included in the domain for this piece, I do a open point at 2, -4. Then I'm going to pick other values for x that are greater than 2. So the next would be 3. All right. That's going to lead me to y being -4 as well, right here. And you can see what's going to happen is I'm going to get a horizontal piece here, but it's only going to extend over to the right for x values that are larger than 2. Okay. So altogether, the blue, the red, and the green make the entire graph for this piecewise function. All right. What is the domain of this graph? Well, if you look at all three restrictions, so x is less than or equal to -2, x is between -2 and +2, and then x is greater than 2. Notice that when you combine those three together for the entire function, the domain is all real numbers. Okay. And for the range, we need to look at the graph. Notice that there's a high point at -2, 3, but then there's technically no low point because of the blue piece extending downward. Okay. So our range would be any numbers from -infinity to 3, or y is less than or equal to 3. Okay. All right, so now it's your turn to practice graphing a piecewise function with three pieces. Click on practice 2, pause the video, work through it yourself. If you need to, come back and watch this example again for a little bit more guidance. Okay. All right, in this final example, here we are working backwards. We are given the graph of a piecewise function, and we are going to try to come up with a rule or simply an equation to represent the piecewise function. Okay, so you can see from the graph that there should be three pieces or three rules that make up this function. Okay, so let's start with, I'm going to work left to right on the graph. So let's focus on this piece first, which I'm going to cover over in purple. And notice that that's simply a horizontal piece. At all of those points have a y coordinate of 3. So I'm going to say the first rule is f of x equals 3, but it's only going to be when my x values are less than -1. Okay, and that's because of that open endpoint there. Its x coordinate is -1. Okay. All right, now the next piece in the middle, let's do this one in blue. Okay, so that's another linear piece. I'm going to focus on a couple things here. I'm going to focus on the fact that it's got a y-intercept of 2, and then there's a slope from that point up to the end point. You're going up 2 and you're going left 1, so that's a slope of -2. So this piece is coming from the line y equals -2x plus 2. Okay. And then the restriction for that, it would be if x is between -1, including -1, and +2, but not including +2. Okay. All right. Now the final piece, I'll do it in, I'll leave it in red, and I'm noticing that from this endpoint right here up to this point, there's a slope of 1/2. And then if I were to extend this piece over in the negative direction to where the same trend of points would continue and you'd intersect the y-axis, it looks like it would be intersecting the y-axis at 2. Okay, so that equation would be y equals +1/2 x plus 2. Okay, and that would only be for x values greater than or equal to 2. All right, and that's it for this video.